The phone's harsh ring shattered the silence, jerking me out of a fevered sleep at 2:38 a.m. I'd checked my temperature hours earlier, 102.4 degrees. The flu had leveled me for days, leaving my body racked with chills and coughs that rattled my lungs. The room spun as I reached for my phone with shaky hands. "Hello." My voice came out like gravel. Mallory said, the voice on the other end, sharp, sterile, unmistakably my boss Colleen Maddox. "No concern, no hesitation. You're fired. Effective immediately. Your projects and office have been reassigned." Click. That was it. 3.5 years of loyalty creative wins. Record-breaking ad campaigns all erased with a 12-second call in the middle of the night while I was bedridden with the flu. A part of me should have broken. Instead, I exhaled. "Okay," I said. There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "Okay," she snapped. The confidence in her voice faltered. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A dry, raspy laugh that triggered another coughing fit. "What's so funny?" she demanded. "Nothing." "Colleen, you just don't realize what you've done? Is that a threat?" "Not at all. Just an observation." "Goodbye, Colleen." I hung up, still smiling. The campaigns she just seized, the ones she thought would carry her into the next board promotion, were carefully loaded with liabilities. The kind that only I knew how to avoid. She'd just taken ownership of a professional minefield. If you've ever been blindsided by betrayal, you know that hollow ache. The moment when someone you trusted rips the mask off and shows you who they really are. But don't worry, this story doesn't end here. I promise you, it's worth staying for the fallout. If stories like this hit home, take a moment to like and subscribe. There's more where this came from. My name is Mallory Green. Before that 2 a.m. call, I was the senior brand strategist at a top creative agency in Austin, Texas. I was 44, with a portfolio that turned overlooked brands into household names. I wasn't great at politics, but I knew how to build campaigns that made millions. Let me take you back 3.5 years ago when it all began. Colleen Maddox had personally recruited me, raving about my portfolio like it was a rare gem. "Your campaigns speak to people in ways others can't touch," she told me during our first meeting in a boutique hotel lobby near downtown Austin. "That's what we need here." For the first 6 months, she was my biggest supporter. She paraded my concepts in front of high-profile clients, nodding with gusto as I presented my vision. The executive team seemed genuinely impressed. For a moment, I thought I'd found my professional home. Then came the Helios account, a legacy watchmaker desperate for reinvention. I pitched a campaign that reframed luxury timepieces as personal storytellers' symbols of life's milestones rather than status. It was intimate, nostalgic, and worlds apart from their stale branding. The campaign launched. In the first quarter, sales jumped 42%. The industry buzzed. Invitations to award galas started flooding in. That's when the shift happened. At the celebration dinner, our CEO raised a glass and said, "To Colleen's visionary work on Helios." She stood smiling wide, soaking in the applause. "When I conceived this concept," she began, "I knew it would strike an emotional chord with a modern audience." I sat there, stunned, my smile frozen in place. Not once did she say my name. Later that night, I caught her outside as she waited for her car. "I worked around the clock on that campaign," I said. "You didn't even acknowledge me." She adjusted her designer coat and wouldn't meet my eyes. "Don't be so sensitive, Mallory. This is how business works. We're a team. A team where you take all the credit." Her face stiffened. "You're still new here. I've spent 16 years building my name. When you've been around long enough, you'll understand how this game is played." I should have walked then. But the work challenged me. The salary was solid. And most of all, the insurance covered my mother's experimental cancer treatments. Without it, she wouldn't stand a chance. So I stayed and hoped. But the pattern only deepened. I'd craft entire campaigns only for Colleen to swoop in, tweak a sentence or two, and present it as a collaborative effort. Successes. Hers. Mistakes. Mine. My raises stalled. Her bonuses soared. And promotions They went to those who knew how to flatter and fall in line. Meanwhile, my campaigns kept generating millions. I documented everything. Every brainstorm, every email thread, every pitch deck version. Not for revenge. At least that's what I told myself. It was just protection. Insurance. Then came the breaking point. 12 months ago, our largest client, Veldon Systems, a global tech brand, threatened to walk if we didn't deliver something revolutionary. Colleen called me into her office. "We need something no one's seen before," she said, eyes tight with anxiety. "The CEO specifically asked for you to lead this," she added with a tight smile. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of something close to validation. Finally, recognition. But then she continued, "I'll need to oversee every step. The stakes are too high for unchecked creativity." Translation: I would do the work. She would take the spotlight. So I did what I always did. Poured everything I had into it. I created a campaign that cracked open industry norms. It was intimate, raw, and universal. The client was floored. Sales shattered every projection. At the Spring Awards, Gala Colleen strutted onto the stage to accept the top honor. "I've always championed bold thinking," she said, holding the trophy. "This campaign represents the heart of everything I've built in my career. My name." It flashed in size, 10 font on a single slide, gone in 3 seconds. That night, something broke loose inside me. Not bitterness, not rage, clarity. I wouldn't quit. That would be too easy for her. I wouldn't complain. That would label me difficult. I would outlast her. Quietly, methodically. If this story stirred something in you, don't just scroll on hit subscribe and stay with me. What comes next isn't just a continuation. It's the legacy that betrayal never saw coming. I started speaking up more in meetings, making sure decision makers heard my ideas firsthand. I built direct rapport with clients, and I began embedding subtle creative signatures in my work, stylistic fingerprints only I could trace. Clients noticed. Colleen noticed too. Her tone sharpened. 6 months ago, she assigned me 3 major client accounts, each with punishing deadlines and conflicting demands. The message was obvious. Burn out or fail. I smiled and accepted. What she didn't realize was that I had already prepared. Each project a masterclass in strategy. Bold, refined, groundbreaking. And if executed without careful attention to the embedded compliance layers, well, let's just say Colleen had no idea the real campaign she was about to lead herself into. That's when I saw it clearly. These weren't just difficult projects, they were calculated traps. Colleen wasn't trying to push my limits. She was setting me up. The strategies she insisted on weren't just bold, they brushed right up against regulatory lines. If followed exactly as she demanded, they'd trigger major compliance issues. Not immediately, but in 6 to 8 months. Long after the campaigns launched. Long after the damage. And by then, every breadcrumb would point back to me. So I created dual paths. I built polished, fully compliant versions of each campaign and launched those instead, quietly, seamlessly. Meanwhile, I compiled a paper trail documenting her interference. Every time she said, "You're overcomplicating it," or "let's skip the legal filters," I noted it. Every time she deleted a disclaimer or stripped out a compliance step, I saved both versions. "We don't need all this legal clutter," she'd scoff, redlining key sections. "It kills the message." I kept her edits. I kept everything. Then I got sick. The flu at first. Then full-blown COVID. My fever spiked to 103. I could barely sit up in bed, let alone open my laptop. I worried the plan would fall apart. But as the illness worsened, so did the silence from my team. Messages went unanswered. Projects I had led were quietly rerouted. My access to certain folders vanished. I could feel the shift. 2 weeks into my illness, the phone rang. 2:38 a.m. Colleen's voice was cold as glass. "You're fired. Your projects and office have been reassigned." Click. Lying in bed, drenched in sweat, lungs aching, I exhaled. This was what I'd prepared for. By sunrise, between coughing fits, I sent 3 emails. The first to our internal compliance officer, raising concerns about campaign directives Colleen had overridden. The second, to the board of directors attaching a full documentation package, timelines version, histories directives. The truth. The third to my attorney outlining the wrongful termination and detailing the pattern of credit theft retaliation and systemic erasure I had endured. Then I waited and recovered. The fever finally broke. I felt weak but clear. For days, silence, doubt crept in. Had she buried everything? Then 1 week later, my phone rang. It was Preston Mallory, head of the board. "Mallory, we need to talk," he said gravely. My pulse quickened. Had it worked, or had I just lit the match on my own career? "We've reviewed your documentation," he said. And we've spoken directly with the clients," said Preston Hale, his voice steady but tense. "There are discrepancies between what we were told and what actually happened." I didn't respond. I let the silence do the heavy lifting. "The board has called an emergency meeting tomorrow," he continued. "We'd like you to attend." I took a long breath. "Preston, I'm still recovering from COVID, the illness Colleen knew I had when she fired me." At 2:38 in the morning, a pause, then a sigh. "Yes, that's part of what we need to discuss. Can you join virtually? I'll be there." That night, I barely slept, not from anxiety, but anticipation. Years of having my work minimized, erased, stolen, of being treated as disposable. It was all finally converging. The next morning, I logged into the video call 10 minutes early. One by one, the board members appeared, their expressions unreadable. Colleen was the last to join. She looked calm until she saw me. "What is this?" she demanded, eyes narrowing. "Why is she here?" Colleen Preston said firmly. "We have serious matters to address." For the next hour, I sat quietly as my documentation did the speaking. Screen share after screen share emails where Colleen instructed me to remove legal guardrails. Recordings of her dismissing compliance as bureaucratic fluff. Slide-by-slide comparisons between what she'd presented to the board and what had actually gone to clients. But the final blow came from the clients themselves, statements affirming that I had been the creative architect behind the campaigns. Not Colleen. Her composure fractured. Confidence turned to confusion. Then panic. "This is absurd," she said, voice rising. "She's manipulating you. I've given 15 years to this company." Preston's expression remained stone cold. "And in those 15 years, how many others' work have you claimed as your own, Colleen?" The question hung there like a gavel in the air. Colleen looked around the screen, searching for support. She found none. "You'll need to submit your resignation by end of day," Preston said flatly. "The legal team will follow up regarding the client complaints." "You can't do this," she whispered, but the fight was already gone from her voice. After she disconnected, Preston turned to me. "Mallory, on behalf of the board, I want to apologize. We failed in our oversight. We should have seen it sooner." I nodded slowly, keeping my expression neutral, even as a quiet surge of victory pulsed through me. "We'd like to offer you Colleen's position," Preston Hale said. "Effective? Immediately. Your work has been exceptional," he added. "And your integrity, especially under pressure, speaks volumes. It was everything I thought I wanted. Recognition, authority, vindication. But as I opened my mouth to accept, something unexpected happened. I paused. This should have been the moment I celebrated. But instead, I felt detached, like I was staring at someone else's prize. The same company that had let Colleen get away with theft and manipulation for years was now sorry only after legal exposure and client fallout. "I appreciate the offer, Preston," I said carefully, "but I need some time to think about it." My priorities shifted during my illness. His surprise registered on his face. "Of course," he said. "Take the time you need. The offer stands." After the call ended, I stared at the screen. Colleen had been removed. I'd been offered her position, and yet I felt hollow. Was taking her seat on a foundation built from others' stolen work really justice? Or just continuing a broken system? My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "How did it go?" "Honey," I stared at her message, thinking about how close I came to losing her. The company's health insurance had helped save her life, but it had also chained me to a toxic environment for too long. That's when it hit me. The most powerful revenge wasn't inheriting Colleen's title. It was making both her and the entire old system obsolete. I picked up the phone and called Preston back. He answered on the second ring. "Preston," I said calmly. "I've made my decision. Let's hear it. I'm declining the offer." There was a long pause, then a sharp inhale on his end. "But I have a different proposal. Mallory, I understand you're upset, but this position comes with substantial—" "I don't want Colleen's job," I said, cutting him off. "I want to change how this industry works." For the next hour, I laid it all out, a new agency model built around transparent attribution, fair compensation tied directly to results, and collaborative leadership. No more stolen ideas, no more invisible workhorses. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reinvention. No more hidden contributions, I said. Our industry talks a big game about innovation, but it still clings to a hierarchy built in the 1950s. I let the silence settle before continuing. Clients are tired of paying premium rates for work done by underpaid juniors, while executives slap their names on the results. Preston Hale said nothing at first, watching me closely as I outlined my proposal, a new internal division with entirely different rules. "I'll stay," I said, "but only if the board agrees to pilot this model. Every team member gets direct credit. Compensation tied to results, not politics. No middle management hijacking creative ownership." Preston exhaled slowly. "You're essentially asking us to cannibalize our own business model. I'm asking you to evolve before someone else makes you obsolete." The silence stretched. Finally, he nodded. "Present it to the full board next week. I can't promise anything. That's all I ask." For the next 7 days, I threw every ounce of my recovering energy into the pitch. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about building something that outlived betrayal. The day of the board meeting, 12 executive faces stared at me across a long, virtual table. I walked them through every detail structure: projected returns, retention benefits, and transparency advantages. Ms. Green said, "Imani Carter, the board's longest-serving member, while intriguing, your proposal challenges decades of how this business has always operated." With respect, I said, "Steady, that's exactly the problem. Those decades of practice are why we lose our best talent every 18 months, why clients question our billing, why Colleen was able to steal credit unchecked for years." That last point hit its mark. A few board members shifted in their chairs. "Give me 6 months," I said. "A small team, 3 clients, full autonomy. If I fail, you've lost nothing. If I succeed, you'll lead the future of this industry." The debate was long, tense. Then Preston called for a vote. 7-5. In my favor. A narrow win, but a win. "Congratulations," Mallory Preston said. "You've got your division. Don't make us regret this." I won't. This was what real revenge looked like. Not toppling Colleen, making her irrelevant. Within weeks, I assembled a 5-person team. Each one had walked away from the industry after being undervalued or erased. Together, we drafted our operating principles, and our first target client, Delia Chan, marketing director at a mid-sized tech firm in Dallas. Delia Chan had worked with traditional agencies for over a decade, and she had a reputation for being tough. "Your model sounds idealistic," she said during our pitch. Her tone was skeptical, but curious. "This industry runs on relationships and executive oversight. How can junior people deliver without constant top-down management?" "That assumption," I replied, "is exactly why agencies waste your money." She raised an eyebrow. "The junior people are already doing the work. We're just stripping out the layers of politics that take credit and inflate costs." Delia leaned in. "Prove it." She offered us her smallest product line, a mid-tier home tech product with a sluggish presence in the market. 3 months, she said. "Show me what you've got." We accepted without hesitation. Each team member took full ownership of a campaign element research strategy creative rollout. Every piece was clearly labeled with names directly tied to contributions. Our pricing was just as clear line-itemed, by work, not title. 6 weeks later, we launched. The results were immediate. Engagement shot 40% above Delia's KPIs. Conversion rates doubled. 2 weeks later, she called, "I need to meet." My stomach tightened. Had something gone wrong? That afternoon, I sat across from her in a quiet conference room in Dallas. Her expression was unreadable. "I showed your results to our CEO," she said. He had questions. I braced myself. "I'm happy to address any concerns." Her lips curled into the faintest smile. His question was, "Can your team handle our full portfolio?" I blinked. "All of it." She nodded. "You delivered better numbers with half the budget of our main agency. And more importantly, there's no mystery. I know who's doing what and why decisions are made. No guesswork. No execs taking bows for someone else's work." It hit me. This was our first true validation. Not just a win. A foundation. "We'll need to grow the team," I said carefully. "But yes, we can handle it." Delia smiled fully now. "Good. I've already recommended you to 2 other companies. Expect calls this week." She wasn't kidding. Within 2 months, we had 7 clients. By month 4, we'd grown to 15 team members. Our model was working loudly. Even the board members who had voted against me sat in stunned silence as I presented our revenue growth. Preston Hale stood beside me. "This," he said, "is the future. Mallory has shown us a better way forward." Preston Hale's words echoed through the auditorium. Seeing my name and my work acknowledged so publicly felt like water after years in the desert. But what filled me with more pride was seeing my team recognized right alongside me. No buried credits, no footnotes, just full, honest recognition. Then came the industry conference. The same one where Colleen Maddox had stood on stage the year before accepting an award for a campaign she stole from me. Now our new division was nominated for innovation in business practices. I was backstage finalizing my speech when my assistant Casey rushed in. "Mallory, you need to see this." She handed me her phone. There on the screen was a headline, "Colleen Maddox launches new agency, a transparent model for the modern era." I felt my chest tighten. Even now, she was trying to ride the wave I'd built. I scrolled through the article. Her so-called transparent model was a thin imitation. All surface, same hierarchy, same structure. She didn't understand what made our system work because she'd never created anything herself. "Should we respond?" Casey asked quietly. I looked at her, then shook my head. "No," I said, handing the phone back. "The market will sort it out." That evening, the ballroom was packed. As the innovation category came up, I felt a knot of anticipation. When they announced our name, the spotlight landed on our table. As I walked to the stage, I felt still, not nervous, not triumphant, just whole. Standing at the podium, I looked out at the room that had once broken me, and I spoke directly to them. "This award belongs to every person who's had their ideas taken," I said. "To every junior who was told to wait their turn while their work lifted someone else's career." The room grew still. Our model works not because it's noble, but because it's honest. Talent flows where it's valued. Clients stay where trust is built. I paused, eyes scanning the room, and landed on Colleen. Her expression unreadable. To those trying to copy our approach, I continued, "Transparency isn't a tagline. It's a total reinvention. You can't fake it." Our eyes met. She looked away first. After the ceremony, a reporter pulled me aside. "Rumor is Colleen Maddox modeled her agency after yours." Any comment? I smiled. "I'm not looking back. I'm building something she'll never catch." "The thing about our model," I told the reporter, "is that every idea has a clear origin trail. The truth is easy to verify." She raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "Meaning. I wish Colleen well," I said with a half smile, "but authenticity matters. And clients, they can always tell the difference." 6 months later, that prediction proved true. Colleen Maddox's new agency struggled to hold on to both clients and staff. Without the ability to take credit for others' work, her own mediocrity stood exposed. 3 major clients dropped her within weeks, citing inconsistent execution and poor leadership. Meanwhile, our division had grown beyond projections. The board voted to transition the entire firm to our model. Naturally, some didn't like that. Two senior executives resigned rather than adapt to transparency and attribution. We wished them luck and kept moving forward. Exactly 1 year after that, 2:38 a.m. firing call, I got an email that stopped me mid-scroll. "We should talk. See, Colleen." Against my team's advice, I agreed to meet her for coffee. Neutral ground mid-morning, nothing formal. She looked different, diminished. The sharp edges were still there, but dulled. Her confidence cracked in the way people only show when they have nothing left to bluff. We ordered drinks, sat in awkward silence. "Your model is winning," she finally said, staring into her cappuccino. "My agency is bleeding clients every month." I let the silence stretch. I thought I could copy it. "But it's not working. I need your help." I blinked, stunned by the audacity. She had stolen my work, fired me while I was seriously ill, tried to erase me. And now she wanted my help. "Why would I do that?" I asked, voice flat. Colleen hesitated. "Because you're better than me," she admitted. "Not just creatively. You built something I can't replicate." I searched her face, wary of manipulation, but saw only exhaustion. "You never understood why the model works," I said. "It's not the structure or the formulas. It's about valuing people. Actually, valuing them." She winced. "I can learn." "Can you?" I asked. After 15 years of stepping on others? She had no answer. "Here's what I can offer," I said finally. "Not a partnership, not a rescue, just advice." She looked at me. "Close your agency, build something from scratch. Not from what you took, but from what you believe in. Then maybe," I said quietly, "you'll finally understand why our model works." She stared at me. "That's your help. Telling me to shut it down? That's my honesty," I replied. "Something you never offered me." Colleen stood abruptly, her jaw clenched. She left the cafe without another word. Angry, humiliated, and for the first time, powerless. I didn't feel victorious watching her go. Just free. Truly free. It's been 3 years since that 2:38 a.m. call changed my life. Since then, our model has been adopted by over a dozen other agencies. Industry journals that once celebrated Colleen's rise now spotlight case studies built on the systems we pioneered. I've been invited to speak at universities, business schools, and leadership summits on ethical growth, creative ownership, and why transparency isn't just noble, it's sustainable. Last month, a package arrived at my office. Inside was a small, independent business magazine. Paperclipped to the cover was a modest print campaign for a family-owned garden supply store. The creative director, Colleen Maddox. The ad wasn't flashy. It wouldn't win awards. But it was clear, heartfelt, and more than anything, hers. Tucked inside was a note, just 2 lines handwritten in small, neat lettering. "You were right. I'm starting over. Building, not taking. Thank you." I keep that note in the top drawer of my desk, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of the distance traveled, of how far you can go when you refuse to let someone else define your worth. Colleen took my title, my credit, and nearly my health. But in return, I built something she never could a way forward. A system that made her methods obsolete. She thought she was cutting me loose before I became a liability. Instead, she released me to build something bigger, something better, something she could never claim. A structure where people like her who rise by taking from others can no longer thrive. That's the sweetest revenge, not her downfall. Our rise. If you've ever had your voice stolen, your work erased, or your value ignored, remember your ideas still matter, even if they try to bury them. Document everything. Build with people who see you. And when the moment comes, don't burn the system. Build a better one. If you've made it this far, thank you truly. This story wasn't just about me. It was about anyone who's ever been overlooked, used, or underestimated. If any part of my journey resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me what part of this story reminded you of your own. Tell me what you're building now or what you dream of building when the dust settles. Your voice matters. Your story matters. I spent years thinking I had to stay quiet to survive, that pushing back would make me difficult. that my worth was measured by what someone else allowed me to claim. But here's what I've learned: silence doesn't protect you. It only preserves someone else's comfort. Document your work. Speak your truth even when your voice shakes. And when someone tries to take credit for your brilliance, don't waste your energy chasing them down. Instead, channel it into building something so honest, so needed, so undeniably yours that they become irrelevant. That's the part they never see coming. So if you've been through betrayal, if you've had your contribution stolen, or your career derailed, don't give up. Reinvent, rebuild, reclaim your voice. And if you believe stories like mine need to be heard, please like this video and subscribe. Your support helps keep these stories alive, not just mine, but the ones still waiting to be told. We're building something together here, a space where people see each other clearly, where honesty matters more than politics, and where the quiet ones finally get the microphone. I'd love to hear your story next. Drop it in the comments. I'm listening. Mallory.